Hey guys, Peter here to tell you about the latest from Insomnium, Anno 1696, out February 24th on Century Media Records. This album has 8 tracks, 51 minutes in length, and this is the band's 9th full-length studio album. They are a Finnish melodic death metal band. Now this album is a concept album based on a short story written by Nilo, a short story that's based in the year 1696. It tells the tales of witches, witch hunt, and even werewolves. Really interesting concept, really interesting story that works extremely well in how they designed this album. The two come hand in hand. This is a record that from its opening track 1696 to its closing track The Rapids, you feel like you're so much involved in it, you're so immersed in it that you just don't know exactly where you're going, but it's not important. It's about the moment. This album is really about the moment. A record that has incredible playability, incredible fluidity, and the quality of the individual songs, while working well within its own context. Once you listen to this record from start to finish, it feels like every track is 1,000 times better with the one that came before and the one that follows. That is an important element that gives life to the record without taking too much life out of the individual songs. But this is something that's very normal when it comes down to a concept album. An album, like I said, that starts with 1696, a track that's very atmospheric, that sets the tone musically and atmospherically for what the whole album is going to be about, and then it finishes off with The Rapids, a track that feels like it's the perfect closing for this album, but musically it offers a little bit of a cliffhanger. When it comes to the sound on this album, there's two elements that jump into the forefront: the atmosphere of the album and the diversity of sound and execution. When it comes to the atmosphere of this record, this is perhaps one of their most atmospheric albums to date. You need it. You need to reinforce it in order for the concept to work. If you want the listener to be engaged with this short story, if you want the listener to be engaged with the individual stories of every single track, you have to create depth to that story. And creating an album that's more atmospheric, that uses other elements to tell the story, that uses the music to create atmosphere, uses the vocals to create atmosphere, allowing the album to be more encompassing, more complete, is definitely the right formula for a record like this. As far as the diversity of sound, you're going to see that this album still sounds like Insomnium, but at the same time there's going to be songs on this record that feels like they are a new band. And that's because while still being a melodic death metal album, this record is a lot more influenced by a post-doom sound. It's a darker record. It's a more somber record, once again impacted by the concept. That is an important element that we can't forget. But the darkness of this album is palpable. You're going to find it in the atmosphere, you're going to find it in the lyrics, you're going to find it in the vocal approach, in the diversity of vocal approach, and you're definitely going to find it in the music. Stripping a little bit of the melodic death metal sound, infusing more doom into the experience, allows this album to feel thicker. It allows the sound to feel thicker. It's not one of those records that you can break down the elements as good as some others, because the overall bleeding of one into the other, allowing the wall of sound to be more cohesive, more balanced, makes it a lot harder. And therefore you see in that thickness not just heaviness, but that gloom, that doom and gloom sound that this album has across each and every single song. Incredible from that experience, because it allows you to feel the record, it allows you to go deeper into it, experience it across different parameters. Now, within that sound, you have to break down drums and guitars because they have key roles in the overall movement, in the overall existence of this record. When it comes to the drums, I enjoy the fact that they offer some consistency, but they were not overly consistent. The heaviness of this album starts off with the drums, more often than not. They are thunderous at times. They're absolutely packing the weight of the world on their shoulders. The drums on this record, not just creating the foundation of the sound, they also create movement within that same sound and give you a sense of things becoming a lot bleaker, or at least becoming a lot closer to you with how aggressive and how heavy they are. When they take a step back, when they lose a little bit of that power and their force, then they blend in a little bit better with its surrounding, impacting the atmosphere of the record in a different way. So I really enjoyed the drum sound on this record. It had a lot of power, it had a lot of depth, and that added value to that thickness of sound and atmosphere that the album holds. As far as the guitars go, I want to start off by talking about the acoustic elements. This album depends heavily on those acoustic elements. That doesn't mean the album is repetitive from that standpoint, because they use the acoustic elements to give 3 different looks and feels as far as the songs are concerned. In some tracks, the acoustic elements add to the atmosphere. They add to how you feel, to the essence of the songs. Sometimes they add melody. They create the melodic backdrop that's so important for an album like this. And there's other times where they have more of a carrying you through, creating a little bit more of movement so that they can blend better with everything else that is around it, in order for you to feel like these tracks are not separated from one another, so that you can feel like there is a sense of continuity from song to song, creating breadcrumbs, if you will, as you navigate throughout the entire record. So when you create one element and you give this element different opportunities to be executed differently, or at least to have different end results, you're not creating an album that has one single element and it's becoming repetitive across each and every single song. Outside of the acoustic guitars, the melodic side of the band is alive and well, even though I feel like this is an album that from a melodic death metal standpoint, it dropped a little bit of the death metal side as far as the guitars go, but the melodic side is definitely there, definitely enhanced throughout the entire record. Those melodic guitar riffs that we've come to love from Insomnium are there. You're going to find them almost on every single track. The DNA component that makes them who they are is there, and that is that guitar sound, and that is those melodies, and there are those melodic riffs. Really important to not lose track of that, regardless of that doom side of their sound perhaps having a bigger impact on how you're going to perceive it. Now, as far as the vocals are concerned, this album is very diverse. 2 guest vocalists, one of them being a female, being Johanna Kurkela. First time that you're going to get female vocals on a track on an Insomnium album, so something to be excited to look forward to. But you still have Nilo doing what he does best. Now, there's clean male vocals as well, and they add to the dynamic movements of this record. They add to the atmosphere. They add to the beauty and melodic side that the album offers. And then Nilo's vocals sound a little bit deeper in the mix. I would say they are very Beelzebubian on this album. If you look at the album from Beelzebubs and how the vocals were handled on that record, more so from a mix standpoint, this album follows a very similar pattern. I normally prefer the vocals to be more in the forefront, but when I look at the post-doom sound that this album carries, when I look at the atmosphere that this album has, when I look at the overall darkness that this album offers, when I look at the overall thickness of sound, really blending the lines or blurring the lines between elements, having the vocals in between that experience, it adds to it. It adds to the storytelling, it adds to the story, it adds to the concept, it adds to how the album sounds and the atmosphere that it holds. So for this record, in the concept that it is, it works extremely well. It fits the mold, it fits the design, and therefore is executed in a way that enhances what the album has sound-wise, vocally, and obviously lyrical content. Now, all around, this is a different Insomnium sounding record, but it still sounds like Insomnium. They were able to bring new elements to the table, elements that we hadn't seen before, but still create an album that feels connected with the past of the band. This is an album that took me more than a few times going through it for me to be fully engaged with it. It's not one of those records that at first play, you immediately find songs or find your path through it. No, I had to work in order to discover my own path. But the moment that that door opened, the moment that that light bulb went off in my head and I discovered exactly what this album was all about, now I'm able to enjoy it. I'm able to appreciate it from a different perspective and appreciate it from a different angle. Here's a band creating something different and yet still the same. Not every band can do that. This is a way for them to exercise their creative spirit, but still stay connected to the spirit of who the band are. As far as favorite songs are concerned, I want to start off with Godforsaken featuring Johanna Kurkela. Her voice is out of this world. I mean, this is a track that has an incredible dynamic of sound and vocal performance. Her impact is undeniable. She brings a little bit of Heilung into this song. She brings an earthy experience to this track. She brings a folky experience to this track. She brings a sense of beauty, angelic beauty, with how she uses her voice and how grounded in earth her voice is, how that comes across, becoming one side of what this track offers. the other side being represented by Nilo's voice with the heaviness and the harshness that it offers. So it's a song that has heavy, thick, and melodic moments, and it has acoustic, stripped down, and atmospheric moments. Combining these two worlds, using her vocals to define one, using his vocals to define the other, allows the track to be rich in texture and very dynamic. But that folkiness, that high loom vibe that this song has because of her vocal performance is undeniable. Sets this track apart from the entire album. Next we have Starless Paths. This is the most traditional Insomnium song on the entire record. If you told me that this was a track that could have been released on any of the previous albums, I would have agreed with you. This track has old school elements of the band, is the one that perhaps has been touched the least by all the new dynamics that this album offers. It still has some of the new dynamics because when you're creating a song in the context of the album, in the context of the concept of the album, you can't make this song stand out to the point that it doesn't connect with it. And by adding acoustic guitars into this song, there's a bridge on this track with synth keyboards. The bass really pops. The acoustic guitars are phenomenal. That bridge there and those acoustic guitars allow you to feel a connection with songs that came before and songs that come after. But when you look at how heavy the track is, how thunderous the drums are, how cavernous the vocals are, and that DNA melodic guitar riff that just kind of carries you through, that is Insomnium through and through. So this track has all of those old components, but they infused a few new ones in order for it to better blend with the overall design of the record. Last but not least, the Unrest. This is the ballad on the record. The acoustic guitars really give this song a stripped down effect. It really allows you to see the song differently, and then obviously having some heavy harsh vocals work well in order to break away from that stripped down factor, in order to give some thickness to the track, but also using male clean vocals on this song works really well as well, because that's what the track is calling. I mean, when you have a ballad, when you have a song that it's this stripped, when you have a song that is this moody, I wouldn't say atmospheric per se, but the mood of this song is palpable. When you have this ability to take all of the elements away and just become a very bare bones track, you have to add some clean vocals in it, but you also have to add some harsh vocals. But because to have an Insomnium track on this album with no harsh vocals, I think that would have been a step a little bit too big and too far away from the beaten path that they've always been on. There's already enough changes on this record. Leave something like that for a future album. I like the sound of the track, I like the strippedness of the track, and I like the clean vocals more so than anything else. But those harsh vocals are just enough to make this an Insomnium song. This is it. Insomnium with Anno 1696, out February 24th on Century Media Records. Let me know your thoughts on the band, on the singles. Use the comment section below. I'll be reading those and getting back to you. Take care, guys.